welcome to Crush Your Mountain Wellness. You're going to hear in a few minutes a great conversation that I had with Dr. Gabriel Hernandez. He is an acupuncturist and a Chi Gong master. You're going to hear us discuss the history of Chi Gong, discussing whether or not it's a martial art or is it the basis from which martial arts and other things come from. We're going to talk a little bit about breath work and the connection between Chi and Ruach, which is the Hebrew word for breath, and how that really has affected people around the world. Also, we'll talk a little bit about the various modalities of Chi Gong. And it was a really fascinating conversation. Gabriel is a very cool guy. He's a farmer. He's also a businessman. He's got several children, and he takes time to help them, help his wife, and help others to reach the pinnacle of their personal wholeness and wellness. So hang in there. I hope you enjoy it. And by the way, coming up, there's going to be some big changes as time goes on with Crush Your Mountain and Chrysalis Coaching. That's my company, and I work with individuals to help them to lose weight, to lower their glucose, etc. But now we've got some things happening probably at the turn of the year. So as time goes on, I'll let you know a little bit more about it. But in the meantime, please enjoy this conversation with Dr. Gabriel Hernandez. I'm so excited to have with me today Dr. Gabriel Hernandez. He is a naturopathic doctor. He got his training out of the Himke School, the Himke Wholeness School. It's the Center for Wellness out of Atlanta, Georgia. This gentleman is an incredible young man, very talented in the art of Chi Gong. And we're going to explore exactly what that is. We're going to talk a little bit about how that is, how that came about. And it's interesting to see how our bodies really function. And this is an Eastern thing. So here he is. Dr. Gabriel, man, welcome to Crush Your Mountain. It's good to see you.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me. Good to see you as well.
Yeah. So listen, talk to me a little bit about that. You know, people hear about Qigong, they get it confused with Tai Chi or Kung Fu. You know, they think you're going to be breaking boards and things like that. So what is the history of Qigong? How old is Qigong?
Okay, so just some basic information on Qigong. You know, you usually see it spelled firstly Qigong, and that's the Japanese spelling. The Chinese spelling is Chikung. In the very simplistic form, it just means breath work, okay, or breath skill, or skill attained through breath work, to be more, to the point. So that's what it means. It has a 5,000 year traceable history. So beyond that, we don't really know how far it goes back. However, we can connect it to certain yogic practices that also can be traced back 5,000 years roughly. And so from those practices, it is believed that those, what they call pranayama, that would be the Indian version of Qigong. Mm-hmm. These are breath skills that are attained over time through rigorous training.
You're using that word, that Qi, mm-hmm. And again, it is breath. And in other cultures, the concept of breath being a life force, okay, being a personal power, if you will, is also very well known. In both Arabic and Hebrew, the word for breath is ruch or ruach, and it carries the same idea. So it goes back, that idea goes back thousands of years as well. So please continue to tell us a little bit more about this and help us to understand how it's developed.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. That's an excellent point, and you're 100% correct. I didn't want, I'm glad you said it, because it can really, it can really meander and go into a lot of different areas, because it is that ancient, and you do find it throughout all ancient cultures and traditions, in one form or another. So from roughly about 5,000 years ago, in China specifically, for our conversation right now, there were several forms of Qigong being practiced. These were what some might call, and even in the Chinese culture, they consider it internal or alchemy. So when people would talk about the philosopher's stone and transmuting base metal like lead to gold, the same thing was happening, this transmutation from the base metal human to the more refined gold, if you will, of your former self. So it's like putting yourself through the fire to become refined. And it does primarily, it's always been used as a health enhancement, as a health regimen, as a general health maintenance type of exercise. So it often may contain standing forms, stretching forms, like we mentioned that it does have a connection to yoga. You may even find sitting and even lying qigong. So there's certain qigong that is practiced on the back or lying on the side, and so there's even walking qigong. There's swimming qigong. There's jumping qigong. There's running qigong. Uh, as many years as it's been around that we can reference it, there's at least that many forms of qigong. There's at least 5,000 different types of qigong that exist. So
One for every year, huh?
At least, yeah.
So that's interesting too, because when you think about it, just in reasoning things out, we use our breath in various ways. We're always using our breath. And therefore, it would make sense to optimize our usage of breath in the various, in whatever activity we're engaged in.
Yeah.
What is the basic problem with breathing in most people today? Just starting from there.
There's two main things that we see in 80% of people, is mouth breathing, one, which has its place. Okay. Also, shallow chest breathing. So, breathing into the chest, we have to realize how large the lungs are and how much they can actually inflate. And so in Qigong, we look at it like 3 different levels. So the lungs have a very big expansion where we can fill up those lungs fully. And so we start at the base of the lung and inflate up without raising the chest or the shoulders, to basically have full control. So that's really what that is, because once you start to raise the shoulders, most people keep their tension and stresses in the shoulders. So you'll see them, kind of up like this. And so it's important. You'll notice in Qigong is always drop the shoulders, relax the shoulders. For, we're doing bear or holding the ball, it's very important that the shoulders are relaxed. And I just wanted to touch on your previous point or question, if you will, about the Tai Chi and the difference. So
well,
like,
yeah, help us understand that, is because we have Tai Chi. People confuse Qigong with Tai Chi and then Kung Fu and all that. So yeah, please, please help us to see that difference.
So Qigong is also, to put it in perspective, it's a form of meditation. So it can be a moving meditation or a static meditation. Some poses are just held static and you're just breathing, maybe visualizing something. So in Tai Chi, it's also a moving meditation. But in all Tai Chi forms, they have a Chi Gong uh, set, at least one set attached to each Tai Chi system. So you have like Yang Tai Chi, Chen Tai Chi, Wu Tai Chi, and there's many others, uh, Sun style, etc. But each one of those have their own Qi Gong that's attached to it. So these would be like prerequisites or what you would train prior to going into your Tai Chi set.
So then we understand then that Tai Chi, and let's just extend it, all the other martial arts, these are not, these are different than Qigong, but they have a Qigong element in it in preparation of going into the various exercises, modalities, stances, etc.
Exactly. In fact, all martial arts have some form of Qigong. Some aren't even aware of it, but they all do. Excuse me. One of the ones that people don't realize is karate. So karate, you see the Sanshin breath. This is a hard form of Qigong that you find in Crane Kung Fu. So they borrow their Qigong from Crane Kung Fu and another system actually known as Dog Kung Fu. And so they actually do practice hard Qigong. They just don't call it that.
Mm. So, you mentioned now we talked about these various martial arts, but now with Qigong, you mentioned that there were as many as 5,000 different types of Qigong. But now, what are the most common modalities that people use today and that's taught today, particularly in the States?
So there's a few that are, I guess, a little more. Basically, it comes down to marketing. Let me just put it like that. So the ones that are marketed the best are the ones that are most well known. So that could be some of the Shaolin Kung Fu. So the 8 pieces of brocade is probably the most widely practiced form of Qigong, not only in the US, but around the world. It is the basic 8 fundamental core movements that the Shaolin monks practice. It is the same famous system that the monk Damo or Datmor or Bodhidharma, who came from India to China about 1,500 years ago and found the Shaolin monks in a weakened state. At that time, they didn't practice Kung Fu or any type of meditation or anything. And he taught them meditation. Then he taught them the 8 pieces of brocade. So he gave them Qigong and meditation. And then he gave them different forms of Kung Fu. Coming from India, as we had discussed previously, there's a very intricate form of Kung Fu or martial art that comes out of India that has the 36 weapons and all of the different animal forms and styles. And if you look at it, you can easily see the connection between that and Shaolin. They're almost twin sisters, at least twin cousins.
Okay. Okay. They have that too. So that's an interesting thing. But when we take those exercises and we're doing the breath work, it doesn't have to lead into any sort of action or activity or exercise that is connected with violence. It can bring, it's basically a way of regulating the parasympathetic nervous system, bringing
Yes.
down the stress. And the reason why I mention that, because we're talking basically about ancient breath work.
That's right.
You mentioned the challenge with individuals doing a lot of mouth breathing. Well, studies have even shown that people who do that, the shape of their jaws and their face actually change, and it doesn't change for the better. So when we breathe properly, then we are actually enhancing our body all the way around. So this is very important for people to understand that some of those ancient things have modern day application, or just they're essentially timeless. That's the main thing. There's just some things that are just there, and then it should be there. So when we think about the breath of life, why not continue to work with it? Tell us a little bit more now. Okay, we understand what Qigong is. How have you used Qigong in your practice to help individuals?
Wow. Oh, that's a great question. Mostly with Qigong specifically, um, I get a lot of men. So I probably have more women clients and customers. However, 80% of the men that come and see me usually have a concern in the sexual department. And so the Qigong does a great job in getting men back to where they want to be. So, if nothing else, it really invigorates the entire system. And as a byproduct of doing so, men also, especially if they are having issues in that department, um, greatly enhance their performance.
Okay.
So that's the main reason that men come to me and ask me to teach them. Um, just being honest.
No, I appreciate that. And I'll tell you why. Because to break it down, what we're talking about is blood flow. Okay. And so the biggest challenge is now understanding a number of things that's happening that this modality is working with. Because I work with my clients with in terms of breath work. I don't do qigong, but I do help them with breath work and other things like that. And what's important is when you're regulating your breath flow, you're also regulating your blood flow. And that's the understanding. One of the challenges in today's modern society is that we are living in an incredibly tense, stress-filled world. And when we're like that, we are always in that hyper-vigilant state where where our vagus nerve is leaning more towards the sympathetic part of the nervous system. And we're in that fight or flight. And that translates into our lifestyles in so many different ways. So by engaging the breath, by taking care of ourselves in that sense, that again releases those energies, releases the blood flow, and our bodies can function a little bit more so. And for us guys, the older we get, that tends to become a matter of importance to us as well. Because we don't want to get old and unfunctionable, okay,
Yes.
or non-functioning,
Yeah.
right? So it's no surprise there. But now, so we know that qigong is actually good for blood flow, particularly and when it comes to male concerns, erectile dysfunction and things like that. It's excellent like that. What other things actually does it treat and help individuals with?
So it actually can pretty much address most issues that people have, especially dealing with pain. If you have an old injury, um, I'll give you an example of for myself. Um, I almost lost my hand when I was 19 on the job. So basically, took a butcher knife uh, through the wrist
Mm.
and went halfway through the wrist. So these three fingers didn't work. I couldn't feel them; they didn't move or anything. So this happened. I had just started my acupuncture program. So, um, I mean, I was there maybe a week or two tops. I walk into school in a sling, and my teacher's there. He looks at me, and he's with Cecil Palo. He's a very famous martial artist, a Wing Chun master. And Cecil Palo looks at me. He said, "Oh," he said, "no problem. You take my number. You call my student. He teach you qigong. You be just fine." I was like, "Okay." you know, at that time, I knew very little about qigong, but I was aware of it. I had been training in martial arts since I was younger, so I was aware of pressure points and acupuncture, which is one of the reasons I was in school for acupuncture because I had the awareness, but very little experience in the realm of qigong. I had been reading, not really understanding what was really going on. But that was my introduction. So I called his student that night. We set up classes for maybe a couple days later. I met with him. He began to teach me the Silam Tao form, which is the first form in Wing Chun. And the first form in Wing Chun or Wing Sun is Silam Tao. The little or the small idea is the Chi Gong of the system. But most people, when you watch them practice, they don't practice it as the Chi Gong, but it is supposed to be practiced at a 30-minute to an hour interval. And so that's how I was taught it, and that's how I trained it. And I was back at work in 6 weeks, hand fully functional, operational. The strength was back. It was almost like nothing happened, minus, I do keloid, so I had a little keloid, but Cecil Paulo also, because of the keloid, after the surgery, he went and got a Chinese poultice, basically a mustard poultice, and put it on my wrist, so me take it off in 12 hours. 12 hours, the keloid was flat, so no longer, it doesn't stick up. So if you were to like, I don't know if you guys can see it on the camera or not. Let me see. But it's not raised at this point. So, but anyway, so long story short, I went from a hand that wasn't working, and the doctors told me, "Oh, you won't be cooking anymore. You need to find another job where you don't have to really use your hands too much," or something. I was like, it didn't really compute. And so I had my own thoughts and beliefs about the situation. And so, through the use of Qigong, I brought my hand literally back to life, And so from that point on, there wasn't really much more I needed to see. I have witnessed for myself the power and what was actually possible with Qigong. And the grandmaster of my system actually had a bad accident in 1981 where half of his body was paralyzed. And so he began to train the Qigong of our Kung Fu system, the Ting Xing, which I spoke to you about earlier. And he was able to bring his whole body back from the Ting Xing to then become one of the most world-renowned, respected, and powerful Kung Fu masters on the planet. Whether you're in the US or China, he was just a very amazing type person. His Qigong was so strong. You mentioned earlier about like breaking boards and bricks and stuff like that. We don't really demonstrate in that format, but we do train iron body and iron fingers and different things through the Qigong, and then through external training to complement it. And he was famous because one of the things he was famous for was his iron fingers, and his fingers were so hard and strong that when we threw there's a chop technique that we throw. It's like a slicing with the fingers. He could slice a punching bag, and release everything that was inside it. Wow. With one swipe. So that was something that, at 80 years old, you're like, whoa, like
80 years old, yeah. Well, it's many times those demonstrations are there, for the sake of the, for the sake of the spectacle, for the wow factor. But now, the person that's coming to you and we're dealing with maybe, like you said, pain, say for instance, okay, I've got this pain in my shoulder. They come to you, doctor, I've got this pain in my shoulder and I need to go ahead and do something with it because I don't want to take drugs and I don't want surgery. So what steps would a person take? And in fact, let's expand that. Answer that question, but then give us maybe 2 or 3 simple exercises, Qigong exercises that someone can do at home just just to get themselves settled and to increase their sense of wellness?
Sure. Yeah. Well, if they can, of course, we're going to do an actual like consultation if it's on that level, unless they just wanted to learn Qigong. But if they come to me as a client, basically saying I have some issues here, the Qigong will be, what I believe in or how I was taught is to not make the client or the patient dependent upon you, but to give them the tools that they need, to control their own health destiny, if you will. Um, so, like you said, basically, after we figured out what was actually going on, what caused it? Is this something with your nutrition? Did you hurt yourself playing with the children or sports, or what happened? So, we need to get to the root first. Once we figure out what's going on, then we figure out what's going to be our plan of attack. If we're going to use Qigong immediately, usually when it's a shoulder pain, maybe it's from an old injury, even from a new injury, we're going to do something very simple, basically hold the ball. So in some systems, we call it hold the ball. In other systems, we call it the bear. It's also known as standing post in other systems. And it's literally bringing your wrist, elbows, and shoulders on the same plane, bringing the hands to where they're about within an inch of the fingertips to be touching, but not quite touching. This allows the chi to jump the gap. So we're not going to touch like this. We're going to keep it separated, but not too far. We're just going to stay in about that inch range or so. Okay. And what this does, there's several, this is actually a very simple, but also a very complex Qigong. So this deals with the kidneys, but it also deals with the entire body. So we are, okay, you may have heard the terminology where the mind goes, the energy flows. So the same thing happens in Qigong. That is really the concept in Qigong. Once you get beyond rather, the basic concept of breathing, or how to breathe, or how to basically complete the microcosmic orbit, which is typically the foundation of all Qigong practice. Not all Qigong practices have the microcosmic orbit. There's much more simple practices out there. But if you actually want to tap into the body's energetic system, the 14 meridians and the 8 belt channels and all the collaterals of energy that are running through your body, you literally have to tap into your microcosmic orbit. When you do that, you're basically you have several orbits in the body, so it gets kind of complicated. So I don't want to get too off track, but I would teach them the bear, because the bear has so many different levels to it. So we can start very simple to get the shoulders back right. But what we're actually doing is we're actually working on the entire body. Like you said, it's going to get everything flowing. And then as time goes by, I can add on extra pieces. So now that they got the microcosmic orbit, now we show them the orbit that actually goes around the arms and then comes on the inside of the arms for the breath. So as you're inhaling, it's coming out. As you're exhaling, it's coming in. They're catching at the same point on the back and the front of the body as you're breathing. The same thing is happening in the legs. So you're actually pulling up through kidney 1. Kidney 1 is bubbling springs on the bottom of the foot. This is one of the most important points in acupuncture. We're actually breathing through that point as well in a circular manner. So we have 3 circles going on at the same time so this is not, what I'm explaining now is later on down the line, but you start just learning your microcosmic orbit, learning where to put one of the things that kind of irks me, I always hear people say in Qigong classes, because I listen in and I watch other Qigong teachers and I like to know what's going on. So they may say, put your tongue at the roof of your mouth. And that is true, but it's so vague. Once you've studied, that's the most vaguest thing you could say, because we're on the roof of the mouth. The roof of the mouth is, it's some space there. So it's like where do you put it? There's actually a point that's just behind the front two teeth. So you take your tongue at the front two teeth and slide it back gently until it falls
That
into that little,
ridge.
yeah, and that ridge. It's a little hole right there. And that's where the chi actually, when it comes down over the head, it connects there and continues down the front of the body. So go ahead.
Does Chi Gong actually make a person more sensitive and aware to the activities going on within his body, the sensitivities to various occurrences on and within the body?
Yeah, and outside of the body. So you definitely will be more sensitive to all types of things going on because you are building up your electromagnetic, electrostatic frequency in your body. And as you practice, you can actually feel it grow. And those around you, you know, when you touch them or when you put your hands even close to them, they'll be like, whoa, like why are you so hot? Like what is all that coming off of you like that? And it's not, you know, it's just from the practice. And so all of that energy is excess energy that you can actually share and help other people heal. Like I prefer actually to teach people how to build up their own chi than to just give them my chi per se. I'm
It's
not.
it's interesting because when you even science now, and you look at the Heart Math Institute and other areas of study, they've discovered that the heart actually generates an electromagnetic field that extends 3 to 8 feet out of the body. And so, you know, and back in the 70s, it became a thing. There were these cameras, they would have these cameras that would take the pictures of individuals, and they would see that glow around them. So it became a thing. People would start saying, "Ooh, I love your aura." I don't think they saw an aura, but that was a beautiful thing that they would say. But the idea is there is scientific basis for all of the things that we're talking about. It's just oftentimes the language that we use to define these things. And so nothing against Western medicine, but oftentimes the discussion is the same, but it comes from a different place. But I wanted to really thank you again with all of your knowledge, because you know, once you get started, we get in the weeds, man. We just get down into it. And you know, when you're discussing such an old concept, an old practice, and you're talking about a way of looking at the body that is completely different from from the direction that Herodotus began to teach. Not that Herodotus was wrong. He's the father. He was the father of ancient medicine. They say he's the father of, to a certain extent, modern medicine. And many of the things that he has said is absolutely true. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to refute it. Certainly, we don't want to do any harm. Certainly, we want to let food be our medicine and medicine be our food. And certainly, all illnesses begin in the gut. Now, we have a greater thing. We can utilize our breath to treat our bodies as well. Not that we're going to heal ourselves of everything that way, but we can increase our health and our wellness. And I really want to thank the good Dr. Hernandez for coming on today and, you know, giving this powerful information. So you've got some programs going on. You're working on some things. Please talk to us about it.
Sure. Yeah. I have a few projects going on simultaneously, just putting some things together. So we just completed a project that we've been working on for about a year, and we're getting ready to launch this coming week. And it's basically a package, a kit, if you will, to assist men who are having issues. So it's like how to naturally reverse ED and PE, right? And basically, it comes not only with a workbook explaining everything from nutrition to stress. Um, sometimes it's a mental block. So we deal with the psychology. Um, we have a full it's a full video system. There's reading, there's homework, there's daily practices, your night practice, your morning practice, and it's just a full on system. We actually supply you with your it's 100-day program. We also supply the supplements to go with that. So we have herbs for the prostate, an all natural multivitamin that has other phytonutrients and herbs in it, like a whole food vitamin. And then we also have another product in there that we call Ultraman that has a lot of the herbs that help to stimulate testosterone and other things in men that, just help them, help support them. So we're touching it from every angle. While that's going on, I'm assisting again, like I mentioned, my Sifu, Jeff Larson, in putting our complete, not only the Qigong, but also the Kung Fu system in a place where people can actually come and train at their leisure. Not everyone has the time. Since the pandemic, a lot of things have changed. Even my Kung Fu school has gone completely underground here in Atlanta. And it's we train every now and again, but it's not like it was before the pandemic. So it's, I want to make this stuff accessible. Like I mentioned, when you look Ting Sing up online and you go to the boards and the chat rooms, like there's a lot of people looking for it, and there's not a lot of people teaching it because only a few people know it. And like I said, it's been behind temple walls for 400 years before it was recently released by my Sifu at the direction of his Sifu, the Grandmaster Henry Puyi. So
So just some translations here. When Dr. Gabriel says, now can I call you Dr. Gabe? Just sounds cool. Can I call you Dr. Gabe?
That works for you. If that works for you.
So what Dr. Gabe is saying here is when he says seafood, that means teacher. Okay, just to break it down, right? So each one and each teacher actually works with you directly. It's a very close mentorship that happens there. Now, Ting Sing, on the other hand, for many of our listeners, they weren't privy to our prior conversation.
That's right. Got it.
So let's talk a little bit about what Ting Sing is. And he's mentioned that it's been behind the temple walls for 400 years, 4 centuries. But now, what is it? And then again, with our focus on health and wellness, how is that applied within the health and wellness space?
Sure. Well, aside from being the Qigong for Southern Praying Mantis Kung Fu, it was also the Southern Bamboo Forest Shaolin temples, I guess you can say medicine. So that's their daily formula for good health is the Ting Sing Qigong. The Ting Sing translates to the universe shines forth from within you. And so it is a way, if you will, metaphorically to help you shine. And so through the breath work, all of the things that you might seek in Qigong practices that you would have to go and learn 5 to 10 different practices, all of those different things, such as fusion of the 5 elements. These are different types of Qigong or Qigong skills that you can attain. The bone marrow washing, iron shirt or iron robe, cotton shirt or the cotton robe. Also the big draw. So these are the big draw is something that you have to go and learn separate because that's for what they call sexual kung fu or testicular kung fu to teach men how to what is known as ejaculate. But all of those things are within the one system that we train and much more. It even contains sun gazing and just all types of different practices that you you won't find in one place. I haven't, and I've looked just to see what else is out here. Um, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great stuff out here. And I do train other systems as well. But that is my foundational and my, you know, my main system, if you will.
Wow. You mentioned sun gazing, and I can only make a guess that it's teaching an individual how to actually um, embrace the sun, particularly, I'm guessing, the sunrise, because of the red rays that come during that time that actually invigorate the body. And it actually, one of the things that I do with my clients is in helping them to get up in the morning and actually around dawn to embrace that, breathe that new air, but also not look directly at the sun, but gaze just above or below the horizon where you can embrace those rays, and it actually awakens the brain. It resets the circadian rhythms. So so it's something that I have a familiarity with, even though I'm not a Qigong practitioner, things like that. But you see the connection, because
Definitely.
many times things that are part of nature, part of science, have a connection elsewhere. So yeah, that sounds really fascinating. Okay, anything else that you got going on? Where can people find you if they want to?
Sure. If they want to contact me, you can go to smypharmacy.com, and that's SMAIFARMACY.com. I'll spell it again. SMAIFARMACY.com. And that's SMY and then pharmacy. So SMY is basically an ancient Egyptian word that really means unity. It can also translate to peace as well. And then pharmacy. Me and my wife are actually farmers. We farm, so we grow a lot of herbs, a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruits and melons, berries, and we actually supply not really the vegetables as much as we used to, but now more of the herbs, we actually supply it directly to our clients. So we actually grow our own organic herbs, process them ourselves, and on smypharmacy.com, you can find a lot of our products. Um, you can find them there. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on. You're an incredible gentleman. You have a lot going on, and we want to sort of do what we can to enhance our health and our wellness. The idea is that whenever you are taking the time to care for yourself, whenever you are doing what you can to focus on your breath, focus on your nervous system, learning to keep calm, you see, that is the foundation of your health in a lot of ways, especially in this day and age. We're dealing with so many different challenges. So your wellness comes in when you're focused on what you take into your body, take into your mind, take into your heart, and take into your lungs. I'm going to ask one last question to our dear Dr. Gabe.
Sure.
What does it mean to you to crush your mountain?
I'm glad you asked that. I thought about it actually all week. And, when it comes to that, I like to think of it as I have a never quit attitude. Um, just about anything that I'm passionate about in life, I'll just never quit. So, like a lot of the things, like even for instance, just imagine uh, 18 years old, fresh out of high school, going into the field of acupuncture and naturopathic medicine in the 90s as a vegan. Uh, you know, my background is my mother's from South Carolina, my father's from Puerto Rico. There literally was pork on every plate growing up, you know. So I was going, I mean, directly against the current that was being presented to me. Um, but I knew what the future held, or at least from what I believed, and it has rang true and come to full fruition. What this field would mean in the future to people and how bad the world needed this information. So I dedicated, my time, my life, I mean, while being a father, I have 6 children. So, you know, so yeah, I've seen it and done it. I've owned herb shops, I've owned restaurants. So this is while, I mean, while helping people. So I just believe in never giving up. I had the blessing of sitting down with this gentleman one time. A friend of mine brought him over to my house. This guy was worth like 300 million or something, right? And he sits on my couch and he's talking to me. And he said, "You know what?" He said, "Gabriel, I see you have a lot going on." And he said, don't let anybody tell you that you're doing too much." He said, because he said, "You wouldn't believe the amount of businesses I was, struggling to keep afloat until it actually worked." And he said, and once it worked, that was it. All of it worked. And he said, so just keep going. He said, whatever it is you're passionate about. So I just, from situations like that, I've always just had a never quit. And, I met him maybe 10 years ago, but I was already in that mindset. That was just extra fuel on the fire, to see somebody so successful say, "Hey, man, forget what these people are telling you. They don't know any better, go for it." A lot of times people are on a path that has never been blazed. Go blaze it, because you're opening up for somebody else, so that's one of the reasons why I'm so blessed that I've had the pleasure of meeting people like Dr. Mark, who was my mentor, my teacher, taught me acupuncture, um, you know, and he's world renowned. He literally wrote the laws for that stuff. And at 18, at 19 years old, I sat there and I watched him and the congresswoman write the laws out for acupuncture. So I got to witness that. I used to train with Baba Vita. I know we didn't speak about Baba Vita, but Baba Vita taught me the 7 golden treasures. He has gone on to the realm of the ancestors. But if you look him up, you'll find that he's one of the most famous martial artists and acrobats who comes directly out of our communities, straight from Chicago. Him and his teacher, who he sent me to after, Nganga, who transitioned 2 years ago, a superior, supreme level grandmaster in the martial arts, acupuncture, etc. Matter of fact, he was one of the founding members of the NCCAOM, which was the body that does the licensing around the country for acupuncture. And this is another brother from our community. He lived with the masters in China, and they came to live with him in Chicago. And this man, took me under his wing and taught me Chi Gong. And so this is stuff that, like I said, I'm just blessed and thankful. And to answer the question in a 360 way, yes, never give up. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, trying to achieve, if you stop, you'll never know. You never know. So just keep going. Just keep going.
I'll tell you what, that was amazing. To tell you the truth. And the fact of the matter is that when we think about what we deal with on a day-to-day basis, every person has that challenge. Every person has they have their mountain, Now, we can go ahead and climb it if you want to, but there are a few of us who are going to grab the pickaxe, who are going to grab the sledgehammer, and we're going to chip away. And it's so very true and very important to understand that when you're dealing with any sort of circumstance, the old saying is, if you're going through the proverbial H-E-L-L hell, if you're going through it, keep going, because you don't want to stay there. You want to get through it. So why not have the mindset to keep moving forward and avail yourselves of the various modalities of breath work that can help you, the various modalities of acupuncture that can help you, and understand that every circumstance that comes up is something that can teach you and something you can get through. So again, we really want to thank the Dr. Gabe for being here. And as I always say at this time, friends, when we're closing out, don't just climb your mountain, crush through it. And we'll see you next time. Doc, thanks again for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.